Is it possible to not know that you're a native speaker of a language? Maybe. The reason is that native speaker is actually more of an arbitrary term than you'd think. Like, you could say something like, you're a native speaker in a language if you learned it before you were 5, but what if they learned it before they were 6? It's not like they're the opposite of a native speaker just because they waited another year. Here's a better way to think about it. Although it's arbitrary, native speaker points to something fundamental about language acquisition. The reason we use the term native, which kind of implies that you're born speaking a language, is because language acquisition is fundamentally different when you're younger. As your brain develops, it prioritizes different things during different periods, called critical periods. So during the language critical period, it's a lot easier to get proficient in a language that you're learning. It's not just that if you start younger, you have more time to learn. It's that your brain is primed for it. But these periods don't have hard lines. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, oh shoot, I missed the language critical period. The periods kind of gradually fade in and out. And if being a native speaker implies that you learned a language during this critical period, then another question might be, what part of the critical period? So if you started learning a language at 10, then you might not be as native as somebody who learned it at 5, but you're more native than somebody that learned it at 20. So for instance, I started learning Spanish at 15, and I think that made a big difference compared to if I started learning now. So does that make me native? Probably not, but it makes me more native than if I was starting now. And these critical periods are just averages, so who knows, maybe you could extend the tail of your critical period well into your 20s. But either way, you can always still learn a language. It's just different periods of your life have different pros and cons. For instance, if you're older, you can understand more complicated topics in a new language because you can understand more complicated topics. But yeah, if you started learning a language at like 10 or something, I don't think you're the opposite of a native speaker. You could probably justifiably say something like you're 70% a native speaker or something.